Hey everybody. So as you can see, I've been starting to sort through a lot of my core set stuff. While doing that, I came across some other things here, like cards with wonky copyright dates on them. Sometimes it's easy to tell when the cards are from a set when you look at the copyright date, but you have to look for it, you know. For example, up until the M series of core sets, core sets were only published on odd number years. For example, Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, and Revised were all in '93, 4th edition in '95, 5th in '97. Once you hit 6th edition and they start putting expansion symbols on the core set, it becomes a lot easier, you know. But at any rate, moving further into new Phyrexia. The black cards. Da, 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 da. Despise, you look at your opponent's hand, take a planeswalker or creature out of it. It's alright. I only got one. It's only uncommon. It's not exactly how could I get most of my cards the last few years from drafting. And to be perfectly blunt, discard is rarely a good strategy in draft. I mean, can you do it? Yeah, I suppose you can, depending upon the set and the contents of the booster packs that get opened at the table. Discard is a low priority. Just like I've seen people successfully pull off mill decks in draft, not because it's a good strategy most of the time, but because nobody drafts mill because it's usually a bad strategy. But if the card pool opened at the table supports it, you can usually count on being, if you go for it, you can usually count on being the only person that's trying to draft it. And I say this, and what's going to happen is the small number of people that actually watch these videos, one or two of you, is going to go down to your local freaking game store next time there's a draft, and you're going to try and draft something wonky like that, like discard, or you're going to try to draft mill. And because no one else is going for it, you're going to make it work. And then the next time you do it after that, it's not going to work, because everyone's going to say, dude, he drafted this weird-ass mill deck last time. We can't let him do that again. Stuff happens. Stuff happens. Oh, well. Evil Presence. It's a reprint. It's actually a very old card. Enchanted Land is a swamp. I mean, there aren't a lot of swamp walkers in this set. I know, if I recall correctly, Shouldered Whispering one is a swamp walker. I think there were some one or two swamp walk creatures in Zendikar block. I'm guessing that we're going to see more in Innistrad because they reprinted this, because otherwise there isn't much point to it, you know. That, it will screw up people's mana base. But, I don't know. So far I'm not impressed by it. Well, at least not by its presence, you know what I mean? Vault Scourge, on the other hand, is a very impressive little card. It's a 1 Phyrexia black for a 1/1 flying lifelink. Very frequently, this thing will pay for... If you drop this on turn 1 for a colorless and 2 life, I have found that very frequently it will, at the very least, get you your life back before it can be removed. Oh, not at the very least, but it's pretty reliable in that. At least in, you know, draft and sealed deck. It's a good card. Constructed, Constructed, it's not a bad card, I'm not going to say. I could see it being used. Especially if you have any reliable way to put buffs on it. I know there's some decent ones in M12 as well. There's that black enchantment that gives a creature +3/+0, and when it comes into play, you lose a life. And I'm just like, yeah, you throw one of those on a Vault Scourge, and suddenly you've got a 4/2 flyer. Crack! You just hit your opponent for 4. You gain 4 life. That covers the 2 you paid for the Vault. Play the Vault Scourge on turn 1. And the 1 for the enchantment. Net profit 1 life. So at that point, you're up 1 life and your opponent's down 4. That's not bad. That's not bad. Of course, the problem is at that point, of course, is that it still dies to shock. But hey, you know what? Stranger things have happened. Geth's Verdict. One of the things they've been doing since Tempest is every couple of years or so, they'll print a black card where target player sacrifices a creature. In this case, Geth's Verdict is double black for an instant that does it, and also makes the player lose a life. It's not bad. It's pretty solid. Generally, these cards are a little bit more splashable than this. They're usually like a colorless and a black or 2 colorless and a black. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking things like Diabolic Edict, Chainer's Edict, stuff like that. You know? But yeah, I mean, it's solid. It's a really good, overall they're good removal cards because they can take out stuff with protection from black, shroud, hexproof, blah 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 blah. You can take them out. Indestructible, no, it takes it out. Why? Because, hey, it's not being destroyed. It's not being targeted. It targets the player, not the creature. And if that's the only creature you've got out, guess where it's going? Glistening Oil. It reminds me of Tackle Maggot. In some ways, it's double black. It's a creature enchantment. Creature has an effect. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a -1/-1 counter on enchanted creature. When the oil goes to graveyard from battlefield, return to owner's hand. And it's interesting. I'm not sure if I like it or not. It's alright. It's not quite Tackle Maggot either, you know. Oh, jeez, wow. For those that don't know, Tackle Maggot was a really obscure old card. I want to say it was originally in Legends. Don't quote me on this, though. It was reprinted in Chronicles, if I recall correctly. It was an aura, creature enchantment. You put on a creature. During your upkeep, the creature gets, I believe it was a neg-1 counter or something crazy like that. It got some sort of a negative on it. And when that creature went to the graveyard for play, that creature's controller would have to take Tackle Maggot and put it on another creature. Doesn't care whose creature, you just put it on another creature. I mean, if you're the only one with creatures, then you're putting on another one of your own. But if your opponent's got a creature, you throw it on there. Mind you, of course, it still has to be a legal target. Which means if your opponent's got something that can't be targeted for some reason or another, too bad. That means it has to go on your stuff. If there are no legal targets for Tackle Maggot, instead, Tackle Maggot becomes an enchantment targeting that the last creature that dies controller, and during, I can't remember if that was that player's upkeep or the controller's upkeep or whatever the deal was, but yeah, at the beginning of the upkeep, that Tackle Maggot would deal damage to him or make him lose life. I can't remember exactly what it was. Tackle Maggot's one of those cards that was really cute and fun back in the day, and it's got a really entertaining name. You know, it's like, Tackle Maggot! But, yeah, these days, it's pretty much unplayable jank. So, yeah, I suppose you can see how Glistening Oil reminds me of it, you know? Grim Affliction. It's a cute little card. 2 colors and a black. Instant. Put a -1/-1 counter on a creature, then proliferate. Yeah, so you're looking at 2 colors and a black. That can, for a card that will probably take out a 2/2 creature. Plus all the other fun, happy bonuses that come with proliferating, you know? It's not a bad card. Blind Zealot, interesting card. Colors double black for 2/2 with Intimidate. It's one of the, at this point, still small number of creatures with Intimidate. Blind Zealot's got an interesting ability, and I say interesting because it works in a really wonky way. I think I've talked about it before while doing draft stuff. I cover it again real briefly. As worded, the ability says, whenever Blind Zealot deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. If you do, destroy target creature that player controls. Now, because of the way the rules are worded, what that means is you actually have to, when this deals combat damage to a player, you have to pick out a legal target. If there is no legal target, well, then the ability just plain doesn't go with it. Just plain fizzles. It doesn't have it, nothing happens. But you have to pick a legal target. Period. The statement ends. Target must be picked. Ability goes on the stack. When the ability resolves is when you choose whether or not to sacrifice the Zealot. For a lot of people, it's counterintuitive, and I can understand that completely. Honestly, I suppose the most intuitive way to change the wording on that would be like, whenever this deals combat damage to an opponent, target a creature, you may sacrifice this to destroy that creature. But that's the most intuitive way to make it work the way it still to word it so it still works the way it currently does. The way you'll frequently see people play it, because most people aren't like, that big on this particular little rules technicality on it, the way you'll see most people play is, when it does combat damage, you may target a creature if you do sacrifice this and destroy that creature. And that's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. Dismember. Oh, I only have 2 Blind Zealots? Go fig. It's a common too. It's a good card though. Dismember is a redonkulous card. These things are going for what, $2 to $5 now? I can't remember. Kind of expensive for an uncommon. But yeah, the ability to like give a creature -5/-5 for 1 mana and 4 life. Yeah, it's sometimes worth it. This is seeing tournament play. It's a good card. Hard to argue with it, Prider's Grasp. It's an interesting card. Colors double black. For a sorcery, you search your opponent's deck, exile it face down. You may look at that card. Ooh, pardon. You may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled. Well, you may look at and play that card. Blah 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 blah. Interesting thing about that is, for people that aren't quite paying attention, it's just like, I've seen folks try and play the card that they exile this way, and I sat there and I looked at it, it's like, okay, how did you play it? And they're like, well, I exiled it with Prider's Grasp. No, I understand that. How did you pay the mana cost? It's a green card, you're playing black and red, you have no green mana sources. And they're like, but Prider Council says you have to pay the mana cost. Not the converted mana cost, the mana cost. So that's one of those things, that's one of those weird little technicalities. Sometimes people will play this card wrong. And I don't think, most of the time, it's not through any attempt to take advantage of the rules. It's just they expect the card's going to work differently than it actually says it does. And, you know, it is the way it is. People sometimes have really, really weird preconceptions about how certain things work. I don't know why. Whispering Spectre, I'm not really keen on it. It's 3 mana for a 1/1 flying. In fact, when it deals combat damage to an opponent, you may sacrifice it. If you do, they discard cards equal to the number of poison counters they have. Like I said, I'm not keen on it. I mean, it's... meh. I don't know. It doesn't thrill me. I could see it under certain conditions actually being good, but to be perfectly blunt, if you're not powering it out first turn with Dark Ritual, which isn't available in Standard right now anyway, I don't really see much of a point to it. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's a way to break them in one of the Eternal formats. I don't know. But in Standard, nah, I don't see it happening. Don't see it happening in Extended either. Mortis Dogs. It's a 2/2, becomes a 4/2 when it attacks. Goes to graveyard for play. Target player loses life equal to its power. It's alright. One of the interesting things we are seeing in new Phyrexia is we're seeing a bunch of cards that deal in life loss, and we're seeing less Infect in black. And, you know, that's one of the interesting things. We're seeing, you know, Infect just as strong in green as it has been for the whole block, if not stronger. We're seeing as much Infect in white as we had in the middle set of the block, and we're now seeing Infect in red. We've had 2 Infect cards, no, 3 Infect cards in red, I'm sorry. 3, the Ferromancer, the Ziggy Piggy, and the Poison Breathing Ogre. But we're actually seeing a little bit less of it now in black. Parasitic Implant, and we'll get to blue in a moment, or 2. Parasitic Implant, that's another card. It's another card that people, when they're not paying attention, will play it wrong. You put it on a creature during the upkeep of the controller of the enchantment. That creature is sacrificed, and the controller for the enchantment gets a 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature token. I've seen it played wrong so many times. I've seen the creature sacrificed during the creature's controller's upkeep. I've seen the creature's controller take the token. I've, you know, mix and match with the right way and the wrong way, you know? And it's one of those cards you have to pay attention to. 'Cause if you don't pay attention, you're going to look like a doofus. Well, maybe not a doofus, but you're going to look sloppy. You know? Entomber Exarch. Had an Exarch in pretty much every color here. This one's a 2 and double black for 2/2. When he hits the board, choose one. Return a creature from your graveyard to your hand, or your opponent reveals their hand and you choose a non-creature card from it and they discard it. I don't know what I think of this card. I mean, it's got the creature type of cleric. I look at it and it's basically it's a Gravedigger with a slightly more difficult mana cost, not higher, just different. Gravedigger's 3 and a black, and this is 2 and double black. Oh, hey, look at that! I got one handy over here from 10th edition. See, Gravedigger, and so yeah, I mean, he's a 2/2 for 4 mana, And he's either Gravedigger or he hits the board and your opponent reveals their hand and you choose a non-creature card for them to discard. I'm not sure what to think of it. I'm really not. I'm not keen on discard effects that cost more than 3 mana, even when they've got a body tied to them. I mean, if it's got a body tied to it, and it's above, it should be, if it's got a body tied to it, and it's 4 or 5 mana, you should be looking at like a 2/3 or a 3/3 that makes your opponent discard either 3 cards or their entire hand. I don't care which. And I think because of that, I mean, this guy is pretty flexible on that, you know? That's been one of the keys throughout the history of Magic. You pay extra for flexibility, whether that be through outright mana cost or the card being of higher rarity. It doesn't really matter. That's one thing I've also heard some people say, oh, you can't make a card more powerful just because it's a rare. And it's just like, actually, yeah, you can and you do. It's like, seriously, compare, like, I don't know, the mana cost of any card in any set. That's, like, just as an example, you know, compare, I don't know, I'm drawing a blank here now. I'm drawing a blank. Alright, let's go back to, say, alliances, right? You had, I know you had like a 3/2 haste, I think it was. Was that an alliance or was it Ice Age? I can't remember. Yeah, Moldovan Barbarian was Ice Age. But yeah, the point being, though, is back during the time, for example, of alliances, just as an example, you know, what would you expect to get for 2 and double red in a creature at that point in time? At that point in time, you'd be expecting something only modestly better than Hill Giant, which was 3 and a red for a 3/3. And Alliances comes out, and you're getting Balduvian Horde. You're getting a creature that when it hits the board, you discard a card at random, but you're getting a 5/5. You're getting a beefy creature at the 4 slot in red, which at the time was not particularly well known for efficient creatures, especially not efficient fatties. And that was a rare. That was a rare back in the day, which is kind of funny because these days it's kind of like made look almost sad by the the Gorehorn Minotaurs, the 3/3 for 2 and double red from M12 that has Bloodthirst 2. Yeah, go fig. So anyways, I was still talking about these. I'm getting sidetracked, and I think the main reason why is because I was sorting all this core set stuff last night. Oh, Dementia Bat. It's a 2/2 flyer. It's interesting. It's 4 and a black. It's overcosted for its power, toughness, and abilities, in my opinion. And you can pay 4 and a black and sacrifice it. Target player discards 2 cards. I am not going to spend 10 mana to do 2 damage to my opponent and make him discard 2 cards. That's insane. That's idiotic. Who thought this up? Seriously. I mean, the only good thing I can really say about it is it's one of the few instant speed discard effects in the game. There aren't a lot of those. There really aren't. And Dementia Batch is just really bad. I mean, just bad. Pith Driller, on the other hand, is okay. 4 and Phyrexian black for a 2/4 artifact creature. Hits the board, put a neg 1 counter on a creature. Outstanding? Oh, hell no. Not outstanding in the least. But you know what? It's a decent-sized body, comes in, permanently debuffs somebody, maybe takes somebody out. Not a bad card. Reaper of Sholdred. 4 and a black, surprisingly splashable. For a 2-5 Infect, it's an Infect. The power is less than exemplary, but a 5 toughness on a creature with Infect is pretty surprising. You don't see that. I mean, it's an anomaly in the block. You know, normally you don't see an Infect creature with toughness better than 2. Aren't many that are otherwise. Whenever a source deals damage to it, that source's controller gets a poison counter. That's pretty interesting. It gives Infect something that you wouldn't normally expect out of Infect, and that's it. It gives it a scary blocker. Your opponent is not going to want to swing into this guy. Which is kind of funky. You only got one of him, too. He's an uncommon. But yeah, it's fun on that card. I don't know if I really can say I like it, because Infect is usually very aggressive, and he's not an aggressive card. He's costed too slow. He's not a great attacker, etc., etc. Aggressive Phyrexia is a very interesting card in my mind, though. With 3 double black for sorcery, target player draws 3 cards, loses 3 life, and gets 3 poison counters. This can be used to finish someone off. In an Infect deck, this is like your top tier thing. It's like, yeah, dude, you're losing 3 life, drawing 3 cards, and you're getting 3 poison counters. But I already had 8. Well, I guess you lose then. I mean, especially seeing how, you know, a good Infect deck should probably be either killing the opponent or stalled by the time it hits 5 mana, and this kind of swings the wind, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, if your opponent's not playing Infect, and you've just been getting bad draws, pay 5 mana, 3 life, get 3 poison counters that don't mean anything, draw 3 cards. Desperation maneuver. It's alright. I kind of like it. I really do. I don't know if it's going to be if it's ever going to see tournament play anywhere, but it's not that bad. Enslave. It's a reprint from Time Spiral block. It's a 4 double black creature enchantment. You gain control of the creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, enchanted creature deals 1 damage to its owner. Remember, kids, owner and controller are not synonymous. Remember, kids, if you don't know what synonymous means, get a dictionary. Oh, I'm a jerk. But it's fun being a jerk at times, you know? Toxic Nim, a 4/1 Infect with regeneration. I don't like him. I just plain don't. Ichor Explosion. This is a card that I really want to like, but I'm just not sure. It's 7 mana, so that's pretty high up on the curve. As an additional cost to cast it, sacrifice a creature. And now, a lot of people look at it like, you're 7 mana and I sacrifice a creature. What does it do? All creatures get -X till end of turn, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. Basically, what you're looking at here is an almost controlled Wrath of God type effect. You can take creatures out, but you could clear the board with this if you have a good, big enough creature. So you know, sacrificing a creature for it, if you think of it just as an overcosted Wrath of God, Day of Judgment, Damnation type effect, if you think of it that way, sacrificing the creature doesn't mean anything. You're wiping the board anyway. But I know that's sometimes a difficult way to try and look at it. Post-Mortem Lunge, I kind of like it. It's X and a Phyrexia black. Return creature card with converted mana cost X from your graveyard to battlefield, gains haste, exile at the beginning of the next end step. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. That's kind of interesting. That means you could, thinking you can get around that with Sundial of the Infinite. Kind of interesting there. That's not the box it's besieged. Wait. Yeah, that's right. Scars is the first, been besieged. Brain fart. Putting besieged and new Phyrexia in the same box over here. So hit the blue up. Try to do it so quickly. Defensive stance, it's butt. It's just, it's assy. Not a good card. Getaxian, as I was saying before, I rudely interrupted myself. Getaxian Probe, it's a good card. A Phyrexian blue, sorcery. Look at your opponent's hand, draw a card. I look at it very similarly to the, I would want to say it was Street Wraith? Is it Street Wraith? I'm trying to remember. I think it's Street Wraith. It was from Future Sight. It's something I suspect is going to get reprinted in Innistrad. I think Cycling's coming back in Innistrad. I've heard rumors. But yeah, Street Wraith, it's like a 3/3 or a 3/4. I want to say it has Swamp Walk, I'm not certain. But the big thing is it cycles for 2 life. I run it in a discard deck, mostly for the express purpose of I pay 2 life, I cycle it out, I draw a card. That's it in a nutshell, you know? Of course, the fact that I'm also running Liliana Vess in that discard deck, and it also works nicely with her ultimate ability. Hey, what do you want? But yeah, it's a solid card, you know. It's solid. Vapor Snag, it's basically unsummon, where the creature's controller loses 1 life as well. Probably 99+% of the time, it's outright better than unsummon. The only time it's not better than unsummon is when you need your opponent to have some kind of a specific life total, and this would bork that up. That's not often. Blighted Agent. He's a 1/1 unblockable with Infect. Unblockable with Infect. For a colorless and a blue. That's nice. Oh, I would gladly just drop this guy on turn 2. Turn 3, put down a Piston Sledge, suit him up, and swing for the fences. Piston Sledge, if I recall correctly, is +3/+1. Yeah, turn him into a 4/2. Turn 3, hi, take 4 points of Infect. How you doing? If you don't have an answer for him, next turn he's swinging again. You have taken 8 points of Infect damage. At this point, if I have any means to proliferate, I'm gonna do it. You know? It's strong stuff. Strong stuff. Psychic Surgery, colors blue, enchantment. Whenever an opponent shuffles his or her library, you may look at the top 2 cards. You may exile 1 of them, then put the rest on top in order of your choice. You may say, why, if I'm exiling 1 of them, why would I want to put them back? Why would I have to be putting them back in order of choice? I'm only putting 1 back. The key to keep in mind with that is you don't have to exile either of those cards. You could look at you could be looking at an opponent who's got more land than he already needs at this point. Maybe he I'm trying to remember what the words I'm looking for here. He fetch land, that's what I'm looking for. I can't believe my brain farted on that. Maybe he just popped a fetch land to get land out of his deck to increase his odds of not drawing land on his next turn. He shuffles, then the triggered ability hits. You look at the top 2 cards of his deck. If they're both lands, you put them back. Yeah, welcome to 2 dead draws. You know? Psychic Barrier, double blue, counter creature spell, controller loses 1 life. it's different from Remove Soul. It's not better, but it's different. Instead of a colorless and a blue, you're paying double blue and they lose a life. So, there's that. And for some reason, even though it's a common, I've only got one. Don't ask me. I don't know. Argent Mutation. 2 and a blue, instant target permanent becomes an artifact in addition to its other types. Till end of turn, draw a card. It's interesting. I don't know what to make of it. I'd rather have something along the lines of liquid metal coating. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Arm with Ether. 2 and a blue, sorcery. Till end of turn, creatures you control gain whenever this creature deals damage to an opponent, you may return target creature that player controls to its owner's hand. Whenever it deals damage, not just combat damage, whenever it deals damage. It's similar to the old Sigil of Sleep aura from Urza's block, which was whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may return a creature that player controls to their hand. Arm with Ether just gives it to all of your creatures till end of turn. It's interesting. I don't know if it's ever going to see any real play, but it's interesting. Not sure what to make of it. Now, Spinethopter. That I know what to make of. It's good. 2 and a Phyrexia blue for a 2/1 flyer. Would I pay 2 colorless and 2 life for a 2/1 flyer? Yes. Yes, I would. Especially when it's colorblind. Phyrexian Metamorph. This thing's nice. I like it. Very good card. 3 and a Phyrexian blue. Artifact creature, shapeshifter. You may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact or creature on the battlefield, except that it's always going to be an artifact regardless of what other types it picks up or loses. So you could play this and copy an artifact on the field, and it's just a straight-up artifact. You can have it copy a creature, it becomes an artifact creature. Kid science, fun stuff. Tezzer's Gambit. I only have a couple, what, 3 of these? Yeah. I was rather surprised to find I only have 3 of these. It's a good card. 3 and a Phyrexian blue, sorcery, draw 2 cards, proliferate. That's nice. I tend to think of the proliferate more as gravy. The ability to draw cards for 3 colorless and 2 life in any color, whatever color you're playing, that's not bad. Battle Drake is one of those cards that it's not bad. It's a 1/4 flyer for a 3 and a blue. It's got infect, and you pump 3 and a blue to proliferate. That's pretty boss. That is actually pretty boss. I like it. Impaler Strike, good limited card. I don't think I'd ever use it constructed. 2 and double blue for a 3/1 flyer. If it deals combat damage to an opponent, you may sacrifice it. If you do, draw 3 cards. Yeah. Well, once again, not a card I'd use in constructed, but draft, sealed deck, I'd be all over that. It's a 3-power flyer. It is a 3-power flyer. You do not laugh at 3-power flyers. Just like in Mirrored and Besieged, I knew one guy who at first didn't like it. Thought Serum Raker was horrible. It's like, dude, it's a 3-power flyer. Never, ever underestimate a 3-power flyer. Speaking of which, Spire Monitor. It's a 3/3 flyer with flash for 4 and a blue. I cannot tell you how many times I have used this guy, especially his ability to be flashed in. It's just incredible, because I've seen so many people just swing into me when I have no blockers or inadequate blockers, and I'm just like, Spire Monitor, and they're like, yeah, I kind of figured that was coming. But they'll go ahead and do it anyway because they know they'd be stupid not to swing into it, you know? Numbing Dose, it's an interesting card. Enchant artifact or creature, enchanted permanent doesn't untap. During the upkeep of enchanted permanent's controller, that player loses a life. It's 5 mana. It's kind of high on the mana curve, sadly. What's really nice about this, though, I don't think I'd play it in Constructed, really. But what's nice about it is that in Draft, especially in Draft, people will tend to pass this over. If you're good, you can snap up a bunch of these. You snap up a bunch of these, and you can lay some serious hurt on people, because it's not a fast environment. New Phyrexia, Scars of Mirrored in Block Draft. Scars Block Draft is not a super fast environment. I mean, it can be, don't get me wrong, when if one of your opponents gets a lot of good aggressive infect creatures, yeah, he can screw you up. And fast. But, no, this thing, you get those in quantity, and it's simultaneously a control card and a direct damage card. You can do some nasty things with these. And since it also can enchant artifacts as well as creatures, I've seen people put them on the talisman that provides a colorless and gains them a life. I've seen people throw it on that to completely shut the damn thing down. Kid science, fun stuff. Chain Throat Seeker, he's a 5/5 with infect, can't attack unless defending player is poisoned. I don't really like it, but I could easily see it being built around, you know? You know, use this guy with the Blighted Agents, yeah. There you go. Mind Culling, 5 and a blue, sorcery, draw 2, your opponent discards 2. I don't like it. It's too high on the mana curve, in my opinion. You're looking at 6 mana. I mean, maybe if you have a deck with like redonkulous mana production, but other than that, yeah. Phyrexian Jester, 3/3 for 7 mana. 7 mana! I might play it in EDH, but I never play it in a normal constructed deck. It's a 3/3. When it hits the board, you exile a creature. A non-token creature. The Ingester gets +X +Y, where X is the exiled creature's power and Y its toughness. Yeah, go fig. So it can be pretty spectacular. The problem is, of course, is that it's a lot of mana. Chancellor of the Spires, it's a 5/7 flyer. At the beginning of the game, if it's in your opening hand, you can reveal it. And at the first upkeep, each opponent is milled for 7. When it enters the battlefield, you may cast target instant or sorcery from an opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost. And it's 7 mana though, man. I mean, 7. I don't know if I think it's worth it. Probably not, in my opinion. Sadly. Now I've got 3 Jin Gitaxis. Oh, of course, when I was going through the black, you notice I didn't have a Shouldered. I've talked about Shouldered before. She's huge. She reanimates your stuff. She makes your opponent sacrifice creatures. She's evil. Yeah, she's high on the mana curve, but when she hits the board, even if when she hits the board, she can win the game by herself. And not that she needs to be by herself, because she's going to start reanimating your dudes. But anyways, yeah, Jin Gitaxis, he's 10 mana. Kind of restrictive, 8 double blue, he's a 5/4. He's got Flash. At the beginning of your end step, draw 7 cards. That's insane. Each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 7. Generally, that means each opponent at the end of his turn has to discard the remainder of his hand. In pretty much blue in any other color, you can theoretically drop him on turn 5 with sort of Feast and Famine. Put sort of Feast of Famine on one of your creatures. Blah 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 blah. Have at least 5 land open. Swing. Creature connects. Your opponent takes some damage. The sword's ability goes on the stack, which is your opponent discards a card. You untap all your lands. You tap your 5 lands. Sword's ability resolve. Your land is untapped. Tap them again. Cast Djinn. You've got 10 mana. Do it. It also works with blue-green with Bear Umbra. Bear Umbra is a creature enchantment from Rides of the Eldrazi, if I recall correctly. And whenever enchanted creature attacks, untap all lands you control. You can pretty much, timing. The general principle and the timing is the same, except you're doing it when the creature attacks instead of on combat damage. It's like, yeah, okay. As soon as my dude triggered ability goes on the stack, tap 5 lands. Triggered ability resolves. The lands untap. I tap them again. Djinn. Shazam. Alrighty. So that's done. I'm going to start this. Start getting this thing all put together, throw it up online, and look who's we talking about tomorrow. And hey, one more day of new Phyrexia, and then we're moving to the core sets, where we have all sorts of silly stuff, And there's 2 of the oldest cards I own right there. Yeah. Those are unlimited. That was before I started playing, actually. Oh well. Have a good one, fellas. Be safe.